The apple cake. There was an old woman who one day wanted to eat some apple cake. She had plenty of flour, sugar, and butter, and enough spices, but she didn't have any apples. She did have plums, a whole tree full of plums, the roundest and reddest that you ever saw. But you just cannot make an apple cake from plums, even if you try your very hardest. The more the old woman thought about it, the more she wanted apple cake, and nothing else would do. So she set off to market to look for apples. But first she took a basket, filled it with plums, and covered them with a snow-white napkin. She had not gone very far before she came to a field where hens, geese, and turkeys were running about. What a hubbub and a cackling! In the middle of them stood a young woman scattering grain. The young woman nodded to the old woman in a friendly way, and before long the two of them were chatting away happily together. The young woman told the old woman all about her hens, geese, and turkeys, and the old woman told the young woman how much she wanted some apple cake, though she only had a basket of plums. "Well, well," exclaimed the young woman, "what a lovely basket of plums! My husband loves plum jelly. I don't have any apples to swap with you, but could I give you a bag full of feathers?" "Well, what I say is this," said the old woman, "better one person happy than two disappointed. Hold out your apron." She emptied her basket of plums into the young woman's apron and took the bag of feathers. Then she trotted off even more cheerily than before. "Although I am no nearer to my apple cake, at least I'm no further, and in any case, feathers are lighter than plums." She went up the hill and down again and came to a garden full of beautiful lilies, lilac, violets, and roses. She stopped to look at the flowers and saw a man and a woman sitting in the garden, quarreling. "Wadding," said the woman. "No, straw," said the man. "No, indeed. Yes, indeed." They were shouting at each other until they noticed the old woman standing by the gate. "Let's ask her who is right," said the woman. They beckoned to the old woman to come into the garden. "What would you use to stuff a cushion for your grandfather's chair?" asked the woman. "You'd use wadding, wouldn't you?" "No, of course not," said the old woman. "See, I told you," said the man. "Straw is much better, and we can get it from the barn." But the old woman shook her head. "Oh, no," she said, "I would never fill a cushion with straw." They were both disappointed, but the old woman showed them her bag of feathers. "Look," she said, "a cushion stuffed with feathers is fit for a king. I'll give you this bag of feathers in exchange for some apples or flowers from your garden." The man and the woman were sorry they didn't have any apples, but they had plenty of flowers and were glad to get precious feathers in return. They went round the garden, gathering the loveliest blooms for the old woman. The old woman went on her way, glad she had helped to end a quarrel. A little further on, she saw a handsome young man coming towards her. He was dressed in his very best clothes because he was going to visit his sweetheart. He would have been even more handsome if his face hadn't been so gloomy. He looked deeply disappointed. "Good day, sir," said the old woman. "Good or bad, fine or foul, nice or nasty," said the young man. "I don't care. My jeweler has not finished the ring that I ordered for my sweetheart. Now I'm going to her empty-handed." "Better to go with empty hands than with an empty heart," said the old woman. "But we're only young ones, so I'll give you something to fill your empty hands." She took the flowers from her basket and gave them to the young man. He smiled happily, looking handsome again. "Fair exchange is no robbery," he said. He took a gold chain from his neck, dropped it into the old woman's basket, and strode away. The old woman was quite overcome with her good fortune. "With this gold chain I could buy up the whole apple stall," she said to herself. She reached the market town, but she'd only gone a few steps when she saw a poor woman with her 2 children sitting on the doorstep of a tumble-down cottage. They looked as miserable as she was happy. "Why are you looking so sad, my dear?" she kindly asked the woman. "We've eaten the last of our crust of bread," said the woman sadly, "and we don't have any money to buy more." "Well," said the old woman, "I wouldn't want to enjoy a nice apple cake while my neighbor went hungry." She let the gold chain fall into the poor woman's lap, and off she went without waiting for thanks. But she hadn't gone far before the poor woman came running after her. "I haven't got much, dear lady, but here is a little dog for you, a nice friendly creature to keep you company when you are alone, and may God bless you." The old woman put the little dog into her basket. He seemed to like that very much. The old woman laughed to herself. A bag of feathers for a basket full of plums, a bouquet of flowers for a bag of feathers, a gold chain for a bouquet of flowers, a little dog and a blessing for a gold chain, all giving and receiving, and who knows, I may yet come home with some apples. But she couldn't go to a market stall and pay with a little dog, so she left the town and headed home on a different path. She had only walked for 5 minutes when she saw, in a cottage garden, an apple tree laden with shiny red apples. On a bench in front of the cottage sat an old man. "What a lovely apple tree!" called out the old woman. "Yes, yes," said the old man, "but what use are red apples when you're lonely? I'd rather have a cheery little dog for company." "Woof, woof," said the little dog in the old woman's basket. Soon after, the man was happily patting his new dog, and the woman was heading home with a basket full of shiny red apples. Even though it had been a long day, she got back in time to bake a delicious apple cake for her supper. As long as you live kindly and keep looking, it's not so hard to get apples for an apple cake, she thought, and she smiled.